Hello and welcome back to another video. Today is the much awaited deep dive into the talent tree of the Psyker. So much like my Ogre Tree talent dive, which you can watch here in the top right hand corner of the screen, I'll be going through this for the first time, looking at all the abilities and little perk tokens that we have along the way, and we're going to do a lot of judgment here. And I of course have my lovely Voidstrike Force Staff, because I've heard quite a lot about this weapon. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump right in to the Psyker's talent tree. So, first up, I don't know, it's quite hectic looking, so I think I'm going to go down the left hand side and just make my way over. So we have Soul Stealer, which is repelling 15 toughness on warp attack kill. So, this actually was very, very handy if you used the Purgatus Flame Staff. I'll see if I can demonstrate that really quickly in just a second. So as we can see, all these enemies are going to be hitting us, doing lots of damage, but if you're in a horde scenario, all of these warp attacks are really just boosting our toughness, as you can see right there. Instant toughness regeneration, no complaints with that at all. Right, moving on, we've got Quietude, which is repelling 5% toughness for each 10% of peril quelled. This is a very consistent and comfortable pick if you would like to get your peril quelled consistently. It really helps for ranged firefights when you have something like the Purgatus Staff and you're just getting picked off a little bit by the shooters. You can just expend some peril and then get Quietude to bring you that toughness back. We've got Warp Expenditure, which is replenish 2.5% toughness for every 10% peril generated. This one's new. That's very interesting. We've got Metal, which critical hits replenish 5% toughness and also grants 5% movement speed for 4 seconds, stacking 3 times. Okay, so we're seeing some critical chance angles to go with here. As we can see with perfect timing, there's more critical hits. That's interesting. Okay, 3% warp damage for 10% on critical hits, which stacks 5 times. So they're really hammering you to go down in the critical hits. Very, very interested. It's not something that was used or built often beforehand. So, yeah, be interested to see what kind of crit builds you guys come up with. I think crit builds are going to be definitely new to me, since I never really focused on it before, especially not on a Psyker. So, yeah, we'll see where that goes. Of course, we've just got 2 flat bonus toughness boosts down here, and in the middle we have Battle Meditation, which is 10% chance to quell 10% peril on kill. This, I would say, is vital and a must pick no matter which Psyker you're using. All of the Psyker staffs have, well, except the Surge staff now actually, so the other 3 Psyker staffs have really, really strong area damage. So you want this because you're going to be launching all your abilities into hordes, and you're going to quell peril, which means you can keep barraging things down the line into the enemy. Right, let's go down the left, and I might free up some of these points just so I can click down further. And we have Brain Rupture, which is charge up our psychic power and release it to deal immense damage to a single enemy. Effective against flak and carapaced armoured enemies. This is an augmented version of Brain Burst, dealing 50% damage. So this is our old Brain Burst. It only deals 50% damage. Interesting. Before I go and burden myself with that, let's have a look at these. It's Kinetic Resonance, which is using your combat ability, makes your Brain Rupture charge plus 75% faster and generate 50% less peril. Okay, so that was part of something that was baked into the old ultimate ability, so I guess it's just part of every combat ability now if you get this perk. We've got Kinetic Flare, which all attacks have a 10% chance on hit to Brain Rupture the target, which cannot occur while at critical peril and has a cooldown of 15 seconds. So if you have Brain Rupture and you're using any attack, you can Brain Burst the enemy for free. It's really, really good if you have the Purgatus, or really just anything with a Psyker and you want to go with Brain Burst, or Brain Rupture as it's called now, but I'm not all too convinced about its damage. So let's just see just how much damage, or lack thereof, this is going to deal. Okay, I'm nervous. 1,275, okay, it's not bad, but it's not great either. It's now... So for Reapers, the time to kill is effectively halved. It used to be a 2-hit, I believe, at full warp charges. And now it's all, which isn't great. And the Crushers are a similar story. I think it's going to take 4 for them as well. Yes, yes it is. And this is effective against Carapace armor. Okay, it said it was effective against flak armor. Let's give it a go for these. Okay, it's not too bad for Rages. I believe Rages were always 2-hit anyway. Let's go for the Specialists. Okay, it kills Trappers in one go. Snipers in one go. Doesn't kill Flamers in one go, but I don't believe it did before. So it's not too bad. Bombers it did kill in one hit. And it still does. Tox Flamer will be the same, won't die in one hit, which is normal. Dogs did not die in one hit either. Okay, so it seems to be incredibly nerfed against larger Ogren enemies, but not too badly against the Specialists. With the Shotgunners, we've still got an instant kill. That's still an instant kill on the Shotgunner there. And on the Gunner. And not on the Dreg Gunner though. So it seems that because the Dreg Gunner's unarmoured, we're not dealing a one-hit kill to them. Which is a bit of a pain, but I suppose it's just something I'm going to have to get used to, I suppose. Brain Burst, no longer your go-to for killing Crushers and heavy targets. Well, don't know how I feel about that personally, but from what I hear, to be honest, it's something that doesn't really make a difference because the Psyker is stupendously overpowered. But I'll take a look at that a little bit later, because, you know, I have the Voidstrike Staff, and that's the thing in contention, isn't it? Now, here's just a quick run of what the faster charge would look like, by the way. I'm already used to this, as I was using Brain Burst with this feature before the patch update. Very nice. Oh, and I'm dying. Oh dear. Right, let's move on, shall we? So, let's continue. Just below here we've got Peril Resistance, which is just a little handy thing for stopping us from building up our peril percentage. Wildfire. When an enemy dies while affected by your Soul Blaze, nearby enemies each gain up to 4 stacks of Soul Blaze. They cannot gain more stacks than the dying enemy had. Okay, that's not too bad. We've got Psychonetics Aura, which decreases the ability cooldown for you and allies in coherency by 5% on elite or specialist kill. This will come in massive in mission conditions such as high intensity shock troop, or any sort of high intensity run where there's going to be a lot of elites spawning on the map and a specialist running in as well. So that is a massive team boost, and probably something I'd be sure to pick if I was using my Psyker. We've just got some toughness damage reduction just there, which isn't too bad. We've got our Aura on the left hand side, which is Psychonetic Presence. 10% damage for elite and specialist enemies, for you and allies in coherency. This was already baked into the Psyker previously as their passive bonus in coherency, so nothing has changed there. We've got Unlucky for some. When an ally in coherency gets knocked down, replenish 50% toughness to all other allies in coherency. Personally, it sounds good on the face of it. You're replenishing half toughness for everyone in the team, but I feel like for me personally, it's not something I'd probably end up choosing. But you know, if you're in a team and you expect people to go down a lot, and you feel like you're going to need a little bit of a boost in those situations, then it is a good pick to go for. Probably not something I would pick personally. I'd just save the point, spend it elsewhere. We've got one with the Warp, which is gain toughness damage reduction of 10% to 33% based on your current peril. This is also something they had before, although before the patch, the wording on this was for warp charges, even though it was for peril. So it's good to see that they've actually corrected it to say what it does on the tin. At least I hope it does. This is something I'd go for. Psykers are really, really feeble when to get hit. They're very glass cannon-y. So any damage reduction you can get is going to help a massive whole lot. Just got some more peril reduction before we go down into our venting Shriek, which unleashes a wave of warp energy that staggers enemies in front of you, quells 50% peril, and has a base cooldown of 30 seconds. So this was the ultimate ability that Psyker had before the patch. It just blasts a wave forward, pushes enemies back, deals a little bit of suppression as well, and it also pushes things off teammates through walls. So for example, if a hound is mauling your teammate in another room, you have to run round the doors to get to them. No, you can just use this ability, blast them off straight through the wall, save your teammate's life. So for the modifiers for it, we've got Becalming Eruption, which is Venting Shriek, now decreases peril generation by 1% for each enemy hit, stacking 25 times and lasts 5 seconds. If you blast a large horde of enemies, you're going to get decreased peril generation. 1%, that's a quarter. That's not too bad, to be fair. Wouldn't complain about that. It would mean that you're going to get a lot more brain bursts, so we'll try that out in a moment. Warp Rupture is your Venting Shriek, now also deals 100 to 200 damage based off your current peril percentage. It's now dealing a little bit of damage. Not the most damage in the world, but it's not anything that is too bad at all. And then we've got the other modifier, which is Creeping Flames, where Venting Shriek applies 1 to 6 stacks of your Soul Blaze to targets hit based on your current peril. I might lean towards Soul Blaze depending on what build I'm going for. If you're going heavily on Soul Blaze stacks, then you might want to go to that side, but we'll just leave it on that one for now, as I jump in and test out the peril generation reduction. Depending on target's hit, did it say? Yes, it said for each enemy hit. So, if we bunch all of these enemies into this little cone, we could just test how much this does to our peril. Yep, as you can see, it's only doing about 10% per shot, so it has indeed worked, and it's run out. There we go. That's the end of that. Yeah, that seems to work pretty nicely. It also means that if you catch a lot of enemies, you can charge up your Purgatus, blast them with this ability, and then you can launch them with your fire, and you're not going to generate really any peril, which is really, really good, to be fair. And you're going to quell it when you're killing enemies as well. So that's nothing to complain about at all. Nice. Moving on downwards, we've got more peril resistance, nothing to scoff at, of course, which is just going to help with the bonuses we just got. And we've got Puppet Master, which increases the radius for our coherency aura by 50%. Yep, pretty decent stuff, means the team's going to get more of those bonuses we got, like the damage that we chose earlier, and we've just got some toughness damage reduction, which is always very helpful for our glass cannon Psyker. We've got Solidity, which increases quell speed by 30%. Yep, that's a nice little bonus, means that getting rid of all that peril won't take anywhere near as long, and getting rid of peril in the heat of the battle is something that's quite important, so that sounds pretty decent to me. We've just got a tiny bit of toughness before we get into our first keystone. The first one is Warp Siphon, where killing an elite or specialist enemy gains you a warp charge for 25 seconds, stacking 4 times. Your next combat ability spends all available warp charges to reduce the cooldown of that combat ability by 7.5% per warp charge. So if I use my big, massive Psyker brain, that's 30% if I have full stacks, which is okay, that's decent. It's a bit sad that they've baked warp charges into a keystone rather than it being a passive ability of the Psyker, as beforehand, pre-patch 13, it was just something that was passive for the Psyker and you built them up over time, and they gave you a little bit of a damage boost as well, which I'm sure is probably going to be down here at some point. So we'll just click that for now. So we've got Inner Tranquility, where you minus 6% of peril generation reduction for each warp charge. For each warp charge. So that is, what, 4 warp charges, 6 times 4 is 24, so you get another minus 24% peril generation reduction. So you can really start stacking that peril generation reduction, which means you'll just be able to carry on continuously blasting enemies, especially if you're automatically quelling it as well, with the keystone, with the passives that are selectable right at the top of the tree. If you go for that side, you cannot pick the other side, so that's interesting. Other side, we have Essence Harvest, where we replenish 30% toughness over 5 seconds on gaining a warp charge. Gaining a new warp charge during this time resets the timer. I would probably angle towards Inner Tranquility, replenishing 30% toughness over 5 seconds on getting a warp charge. If you're at max stacks, you're going to expend them when using the ability, but I feel like having peril generation reductions it's more of a consistent buff to you, and it'll be used more continuously so that's probably the option that I'd opt to go for. We've got Empyrean Empowerment, which increases all base damage by 4% for each warp charge. There it is. I thought there might be a damage buff with each warp charge, and it's right here. And that's 4 times 4 is 16, so we get a little 16% damage boost from all sources, which isn't too bad. Bear in mind, these do get expended once you use your next ultimate ability. Infire Reborn is our next ability. Killing an enemy with Soul Blaze has a 10% chance to grant you a warp charge. This might be a little inconsistent considering Soul Blaze is a damage over time, so you might not kill an enemy with Soul Blaze, meaning the chance to get a warp charge may be quite slim depending on how much Soul Blaze you're really blasting into the enemy. Just on the face of it on paper, probably not something I'd go for. I'm going to think that I can't select this side. Yep, it's the little chains that come across. So this is Psychic Vampire. Whenever you or an ally in coherency kill an enemy, you have a 4% chance to gain a warp charge. This is kill an enemy. If you see either one of these, I'm not really sure that good, because say we get Psychic Vampire, we've got a 16% chance to gain a warp charge if any of us in coherency kill an enemy. Sure, we're going to stack warp charges very, very quickly, but we're not going to have much trouble doing that anyway. I suppose at the base of it, it is killing an elite or specialist enemy, whereas this grants you or any ally in coherency killing an enemy, so maybe it's more useful than I first give credit for. Out of these two, I would definitely probably pick Psychic Vampire. And we've got Warp Battery, which can store up to 6 warp charges. This was one of the abilities before, and obviously if we go with this, it's going to change all of the mathematics we had for all of these. So if you get your massive Psyker brain on, Warp Siphon is now going to give you 45% cooldown reduction of the combat ability when you expend it with all 6. It's going to give you minus 36% peril generation reduction for each warp charge. It's going to give you plus 24% damage. Right, so that is the entirety of the left-hand side. So what we're going to do is hit the handy E, reset all of our abilities, and we're going to go down to the right-hand side. I might do the middle last, just to spice it up a little bit. And is it just me, or is the Psyker skill tree melting my brain a little bit? I suppose that is probably what it's meant to do. As you know, look at all those wires he's got coming out of his head. His brain would melt with all of that. This person has this little thing, which I'm sure is helping them hone their ability, and you know, there's lots of augmentations going on in here. So maybe if I had all of these tubes going out my skull, I'd be able to comprehend all the numbers and things I'm seeing better. We already checked out the things here on these sides, so we will click our way down to this side. 3% warp damage for 10% on critical hits, which stacks 5 times, so that's obviously 15% warp damage for 10 seconds if you keep stacking them critical hits, which is going to start getting up pretty big, and since they also would replenish 5% toughness, which stacks 3 times, if you're really getting them crits up, you're going to start stacking up some passive buffs. Just got some 15% toughness, which isn't too bad, and then we have our next blitz, Assail. This is where you throw swift, homing projectiles formed of psychic energy. Less effective versus carapace armored enemies. So I am quite excited to use this one. I've seen it in combat, but I've never used it yet. The buffs for it, we have Ethereal Shards. The projectiles from Assail now pierce additional targets. That works nicely. I'm not going to scoff at extra armor piercing. Then we have Quick Shards, where Assail charges replenish 30% faster. So I'm going to say, without a doubt, if you're going down to use Assail, you're clicking this regardless. Let's give it a shot. Oh, the effects look pretty cool. And now we're bracing it. We've got the brain burst effects on the enemy, and we're launching it at them. Okay. It gives us about 25% peril every time we launch one out. It definitely is pretty cool using a different ability than brain burst. Oh wow, the damage on those was quite high. Let's try on some basic enemies. It's piercing straight through them, which is quite cool. They really weren't lying when they said in the dev blog, think Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy with his whistle strike, so... yeah, no, that's pretty fun. It's definitely more fun than Brain Burst now that it's taking a little bit of a damage nerf. I think I might have to use this ability. That's really fun. Right, let's move on, shall we? So moving on down, we've got plus 5% toughness damage reduction. Not too bad. We have Mind in Motion. Your movement speed is not reduced while quelling peril. Not something I ever cared about beforehand, though you could choose it as a thing to have. As always, I'm going to skip past that one and look at Malefic Momentum, which is plus 4% damage to warp attacks for 8 seconds after a non-warp based kill, which stacks 5 times. You're going to want to be switching between your staff and your melee weapon to get this damage buff. So that's not too bad, considering the lovely Illisi Horse Sword does beautiful damage to a lot of targets. Did you see that? That was incredible. And it cleaves beautifully through hundreds of enemies as well. It is a monster for. So switching between that and your force ability isn't a problem for me. I have a short on the Illisi Force Sword in case you wanted to check that out. Just got some more toughness damage reduction, which for our lovely glass cannon Psyker, I'll never scoff at. Our next aura is Prescience. You and allies in coherency gain 4% critical hit chance. Anyone else in your team that's stacking that crit hit is going to be very, very happy you've brought this. A team stacking critical hits. We're going to start doing boatloads of damage, and that is going to start to stack with all of the other crit bonuses we've got going on above. And we move on to our next passive, Empathic Evasion, where a critical hit makes you count as dodging against range attacks for 1 second. That's very, very interesting. If you were to put critical hit chance on your Percutus, for example, it also has a blessing that increases crit chance. I think I might have one. There it is. Yep, Warp Nexus. Gain between 4.5% and 18% critical chance based on current peril level. That's all stacking up. If you've got a lot of crits landing, you're going to be dodging a lot of ranged attacks, which is going to help with survivability quite a ton. I'm liking where this is going with the crit. It's definitely new to me. I'm going to have to experiment with a lot of builds to get used to it. But we'll move on to the next passive, which is Anticipation. A plus 50% dodge duration increases the number of dodges before dodges starts becoming ineffective by 1. They just need to fix their grammar on that, because it was a little bit confusing to read. 50% dodge duration, does that just mean... So it's not distance, it just means the amount of time that I'm classed as dodging, I guess? Interesting, very interesting. That sounds, on the face of it, on paper, a very powerful little passive. Especially if you're surrounded in a sort of horde scenario. You're going to be dodging and getting a lot of value from that. So we've got just a ranged damage boost, which is pretty decent. And then we move on to our next ability. Scrier's Gaze. Triggers Scrier's Gaze. When entering Scrier's Gaze, you gain 10% damage and 20% critical chance. For every second in Scrier's Gaze, you gain 1% damage up to a maximum of 30, and this effect lingers for 10 seconds after leaving Scrier's Gaze. While in Scrier's Gaze, I've said this word about 5 times at this point, you build up peril. Build up is temporarily slowed down by enemy kills. At 100 peril, Scrier's Gaze ends, and the cooldown is 30 seconds. This sounds very, very interesting. You're getting a massive boost for damage from, that's a potential 40% extra you're getting, 20% critical chance, stacked with other critical chance buffs you've got just above. This could make you very, very strong and very, very survivable whilst you're killing everything. So we'll just check out the extra buffs for it before giving it a shot in the Psychanium. First modifier is Precognition, which weak spot kills count as 1 second spent in Scrier's Gaze. For each second you spent in Scrier's Gaze, you now also gain 1% finesse damage up to a 30% maximum, which lingers for 10% after. So we're effectively getting 30% finesse damage, but also every time we get a weak spot kill, it counts as 1 second spent in Scrier's Gaze. Does this mean that every time you get a weak spot kill, you get 1 second less to spend in it? I'm not sure, we'll have to try that out in a moment, but on the face of it, this sounds pretty decent. We've got the opposing modifier, which is Reality Anchor. Scrier's Gaze now also reduces your peril generated by minus 20% while active. So that's some more peril generation reduction buffs. I'm going to have to test both of these at some point, because they both sound very, very interesting. We've got Warp Speed, where Scrier's Gaze now also increases your movement speed by plus plus 20% while active. And finally, we got Endurance, where it increases our damage reduction or toughness by 20%. So quickly, I think I'll try this one for now, and we'll go for Endurance, and we'll pick up Warp Speed to see just how quickly we're going to start moving around. Here we go. I'm going to activate it and see what I can do. So we're seeing a lot of critical hits landing. Remember, on this staff I have critical based on peril. So for every critical hit tick you just saw, with Empathic Invasion, you'll get a dodge against ranged attacks. There's a lot of ticks going on there, so that could be very, very good. Clearly the damage buff that we're getting from this is pretty crazy. Overall, it sounds like a pretty interesting ability that is essentially just making your Psyker go Super Saiyan for a few moments, so that's pretty decent. It doesn't feel that exciting. The effect just makes your screen go a bit funky for a moment. And I feel like it could have looked a bit cooler, but it's not the end of the world, you know, so I won't complain about that. And it lasts for a decent amount of time for all of the damage we're going to get. Okay, let's jump on down the tree, shall we, to our next modifier, or passive, which is plus 5% critical hit chance. No complaints there. We've got a next passive, which is Kinetic Deflection. While below critical peril, blocking an attack causes you to gain peril instead of losing stamina. Gained peril is 25% of the blocked attack's stamina cost. It's not something I ever chose before, but it can be helpful if you're finding yourself getting hit a lot and losing stamina to stop yourself from blocking, but it's kind of sad you're forced to pick it to go down this line, because it's not something I would personally like to choose, but not the end of the world. We've got a 5% movement speed bonus, not too bad. And our next passive is True Aim. Landing 5 weak spot hits grants your next ranged attack a guaranteed critical. Landing 5 weak spot hits with the staffs has never proved to be amazing. I'm not sure just how useful True Aim is going to be, considering every 5 weak spot hits you're going to get just 1 crit. Could be good, could be bad. Depends on what the crit modifiers for the ranged abilities are. Yeah, I'm not really that bothered about that. Just got some 15 toughness there, and we go into our second keystone. Disrupt Destiny. Every second, enemies within 25 meters have a chance of being marked. Killing a marked enemy replenishes 10% toughness, grants 20% move speed for 2.5 seconds, and adds a precision bonus for 15 seconds. Each precision bonus grants 1% damage, 2% critical damage, and 2.5% weak spot damage. Precision bonus is stack 15 times. Okay. There's a lot in here. Each one gives you toughness, gives you a boost of movement speed, and then you also get a potential 15% damage, 30% crit damage, and 37.5 weak spot damage, would that be? And they last 15 seconds. So if you're stacking those, wow, and we've not even buffed this up yet. Okay, we'll give this a shot in the Psychanium in a moment. So our first keystone modifier is Lingering Influence, which increases the duration of Disrupt Destiny from 15 seconds to 30. I've not even looked at the other one, but I think that one's going to have a lot of worth. Maximum precision bonuses stacks are increased from 50. Oh my, never mind. I've been proven wrong. That one's trash. This one's the one to go for. You've just doubled all the bonuses here. That's 30% damage, 50% crit damage, and 60% weak spot damage.
Quick maths.
Holy hell. Perfectionism is the one out of these two. Screw keeping them for longer. Stacking them because you're a professional psyker. You don't need more time, you just need more things to kill. We're pro, we're going perfectionism every time. Got Cruel Fortune, where weak spot kills grant 2 additional stacks. Mate, our aim is godlike. I know you're a pro, I'm a pro, we're hitting heads all the time. 2 stacks. Well, that's 3 stacks actually, so yeah, nah, easy. And we have Purloin Providence, where killing enemies marked by Disrupt Destiny have a 20% chance to instantly quell 15% of your peril, which, yeah, that's pretty decent. So, let's go see what a marked enemy looks like. I assume I'm within 25 meters of all of these enemies here. Not seeing anything. Any marks? No? Yay, nay? Get closer to them.
No marks? No?
Okay, no marks it is. Guess I'm not testing that out. It did say every second enemies within 25 meters have a chance of being marked. What's the chance? What's the chance, fatshark? Do I just wait until one maybe gets one? Okay, I'm done waiting. Hopefully Disrupt Destiny just doesn't work in the Psychanium and we can and I can see what it looks like in a match. So I may select this depending on what the middle tree gives me for my gameplay preview, which I will be recording after this because I want to jump into the Psyker gameplay really soon. So yeah, what I've been doing is doing the skill tree dive so I can get a first look and then using the gameplay afterwards, just so everything's fresh. But for now, we're going to reset all, and we're going to cast our way back to the top, move down to the middle, where Smite awaits us, which is our next Blitz ability. Smite unleashes a torrent of bio-lightning, sensing Emperor vibes here. Not the God Emperor, but the that one. Hope that laugh didn't sound too awful. But anyway, it charges to deal high damage and high impact to an enemy on release, or channel a continuous stream that deals low damage but high impact over time, spreading between multiple enemies. This sounds like the Surge Staff. I'm sure it's going to be different, we'll check it out. The first little modifier for it is Enfeeble, which enemies affected by your Smite take 10% increased base damage from all sources, a nice little buff for the team, and Lightning Storm, which increases the number of times your Smite jumps by +1. No complaints there, more people I can start to electrocute the better, and without further ado, let's check it out. Oh. That's my ultimate ability, not Smite. Without further ado, let's check it out. Okay, so everyone getting hit here would get extra damage from all sources from across the team, so that's pretty decent. We'll try the charged attacks. See if we can aim for this. It doesn't do massive damage on the face of it. Not very much damage at all. But it is debuffing them, and it's a massive stagger. So this essentially looks like the old Surge Staff baked into an ability. You know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my Surge Staff, as I haven't used it since the new changes, so we'll just see what this is like now. Okay, it charges your peril up way faster than it did used to. And it does still stagger and bounce across between enemies. And it looks like it staggers all of them that I hit as well. So, is it just... I'm very confused. The effectiveness of the Surge Staff is kind of... is void if you have this ability. Yeah, sure, the Surge Staff does more damage to a single target. I'm sure we can demonstrate that now. Holy hell, that is ridiculous, the amount of damage that was doing. That was critting for big numbers. Oh my goodness. The Surge Staff never used to do this numbers. This is crazy. Okay, so they buffed its single target damage, which is pretty massive. I should probably charge these fully before I release them. But essentially, if you used the Surge Staff before for its crowd controlling ability, all you need to do is select this ability now and you can channel it for a lot longer. So yeah, don't know how I feel about that. The Surge Staff feels powerful on a single target, but for its real main purpose. Smite is doing exactly that, so yeah, I'm not really that happy with those changes. Smite's fun, Surge Staff taking a big nosedive for me there, but let's just move on, see what else we have for us in the tree. So we've checked that one out. So in the middle we've got Inspiring Presence, which is plus 10% toughness replenishment for you and allies in coherency. So that one's decent, why not? You've got Seer's Presence, plus 10% cooldown reduction on abilities for you and allies in coherency. So that's not too bad, but it's not amazing. So for example, with Scrier's Glaze, we're not having a barbecue here. Scrier's Gaze, we'd get what, 3%, not 3%, 3 seconds off the base cooldown. Here we'd get 4 seconds, and here we'd get another 3, so that would bring them down to what, 27 seconds for those two. And this one we haven't checked out, so I'm not going to read it. We would get 36 seconds. Yeah, not the most amazing. You probably won't really feel the difference that much unless you go down to Warp Siphon and make use of the combat ability recharge, but it's not something I think I'll be doing. We've checked out Empathic Evasion and one with the Warp, so we'll move down the middle again to more toughness damage reduction, which we'll never scoff at. And let's check out Telekine Shield, which spawns a psychic shield in front of you for 15 seconds. The shield blocks enemy ranged attacks while you and allies can still shoot through. So I have seen this in action. It looks really good. It's very, very handy. Actually, I've seen Telekine Dome because I've been inside them. So it forms a spherical shield which lasts 20 seconds. I just realised I didn't read this one. No, I did. I'm losing my mind. I feel the warp overtaking me. It's not a good pain. Oh, my brain. Okay, let's get ourselves together. So, it's an extra 5%. It's an extra 5 seconds that the Telekine Dome gives. And with Sanctuary, all your allies get 10% toughness regeneration. And when it dissipates, everyone gets plus 50% toughness damage reduction. That's actually very, very good. This is a very good support build. Can we... Aha, so if you go down one way, you can't select the other. So what I will do is I'll check out the left two, and then I'm going to see what the normal walls look like, and then I'll go to the right two, and I'll check out what those look like. So we have enervating. I feel the warp overtaking me. Enervating Threshold, where Telekine Shield has a 10% chance to stun enemies that pass through it. Specialist enemies have a 100% chance to get stunned, but also damage the Telekine Shield. So you're going to stun hounds pretty instantly, which is very, very good. Same with mutants, actually. You could shove this. If a mutant's coming at you, it's going to stun them instantly, and that'll stop them in their tracks. So this has quite a lot of utility. But it does have a base cooldown of 40 seconds, so I'm not sure about how clutch it's going to come, but here we're holding up to 2 charges, which could be a lot more clutch for those moments where you need it, so let's check it out, shall we? I'll skip it recharging, so I'll see you in a moment. Okay, I'm back. We have 2 charges of the Telekine Wall. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see what it does against a Poxhound. So we have a hound spawning here. It's going to run towards us into the wall, and it's stunned. Beautiful stuff. Did exactly what it said on the tin. What we're going to do is quickly run to a mutant, and we're going to spawn him in. Come at me, bro. And he's stunned as well. That could actually be very, very handy. And he's grabbed me. Be gone with you, beast. Very, very nice. So it does have a lot of clutch potential, as it can block dogs and mutants, and it will do it for 2 stun hits before it blows up, which isn't too shabby. Right, let's have a look at the little dome, just to have a little peek at see what it looks like. So here it is, a lovely dome. Very, very nice. It's very safe in here. and it's quite large, to be honest. So, oh wow, it is really quite big. Very nice. As we can see, it's starting to pulse as I imagine it's now getting ready to dissipate. And there it goes. Very, very good support abilities for the Psyker coming through with the Telekine Shield. So, let's move on down. So we've had a look at that one. Get a 10% health boost, which is quite a lot of health for one of these little operative modifiers. We go down to Warp Rider, which is up to 20% damage from all sources based on your current peril. That is a lot of damage. I'm not really sure what the intervals are for the damage ticks, but up to 20%, that's pretty damn decent. We got some toughness, which is never to be scoffed at. And then we have our final, and then we have our final keystone. Empowered Psyonics. Kills have a 7-point chance to empower your next blitz. Okay, here we go. We're going to need a lot of Psyker brain energy to get through this one, I think. Empowered Brain Rupture has 100% peril cost reduction, 50% cast time reduction, and 50% damage. Empowered Smite has a 30% damage and 25% faster spread between enemies. And Empowered Assail has 100% peril cost reduction, and its base damage is increased from 100 to 150, and does not consume any charges. So I really hope that these next modifiers for this one don't blow my brain up, but we're about to find out. Psychic Leeching. Using your Blitz while Empowered Psyonics is active replenishes 15% toughness to you and allies in coherency. Okay, that's really easy to understand. Very nice. Got Bio Lodestone, which increases the chance to gain Empowered Psyonics on kill from 7.5 to 12.5%. Okay, that's a pretty big increase in the chance to get one. And on the opposing side, we have Overpowering Souls, where is guaranteed a chance to gain Empowered Psyonics on elite kills. A guaranteed chance. Yep. Considering I play high intensity all the time and Shock Troop, Gauntlet, etc., we're going to go straight to Empowering Souls, screw off the other side. Highest difficulty means elite kills are coming left, right, and center. So, Empowering Souls, we're going to get that buff constantly. Charged up, you can now hold up to 3 stacks of Empowered Psyonics. Absolutely beautiful. Let's jump in and see what happens if we start battering some elite enemies to stack these stacks. All of these maulers are elite enemies, so let's give them a kill and see what stats we can bring up. Now we watch them burn and die to death. Oh, in the bottom corner there, we've got 1, and now we've got 3, which means that our Empowered Blitz is ready. Let's pop one in, and there it goes, doing whatever it does. I cannot remember. There's a lot in here. Yeah, so it did 30% extra damage, and it was faster spread. To be honest, now that we've finished our look at all of the nodes in here, I am initially thinking I'm more likely to go down the Scryer's Gaze side, because I really like to disrupt Destiny. There's a lot of damage boosts in here, and I'm really intrigued to see what you can build with crit. I think I would probably go with Assail as well over Smite, unless I was really feeling I was missing that Surge Staff kind of action. And Brain Burst, you know, I've used that for almost a year now, so I'll probably go to choose something else. So on the face of it, I would probably go up here, get the chance to quell Peril. We might jump in with the crits as well to give us that ranged dodge boost. Obviously we're going to pick the Assail bonuses there, and we'll get us that dodge boost, and we will probably not choose that one for now, because I don't really switch between my weapons that often on the Psyker. And we're going to go down the crit chance, because we're building up on the crit chance, and it's going to give us a lot of bonuses through this node. And we'll save this one for now as we scroll down to Scryer's Gaze and pick up Precognition, which is the obvious one to go for, because, you know, we all want extra damage, of course. And this, I believe, I didn't understand it before, but counts as 1 second spent in Scryer's Gaze, means you're going to get more stacks of damage, which means we're going to get more damage. That's what I believe it should be. So we'll click down there, and unfortunately I have to click this one to get our stamina, and we'll go all the way down and click into Perfectionism, I believe was the one. Yep, because we want all the max stacks ever, and we have 3 entire points to play with. So, considering we know that we are feeble as anything, I think we will want to get a lot of toughness regeneration boosts, and we don't really care about soul blades, but I don't think there's anything drastic we can pick from here. So out of all of these, I think I would personally choose the 10% health, because plus 10% is the most valuable out of the options we could have gone for. And yeah, that's probably what I'd go for. Now that we've reached the end, let me have a look at how ridiculous the Voidstrike Staff has become. Everyone's saying it's crazy. I want to see the numbers for myself. So, here I am, an unsuspecting person with my Voidstrike. It's going in. And holy shit. Oh my god. This isn't even fully charged. Oh no! This weapon is ridiculous. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Brain Burst is useless with this. Oh wow, this is ridiculous. Oh my Jesus. Oh my god. No, there's no way. Through the shield! Through the shield! No. Oh my god. It goes through the shield. Jesus. Right, let's pop the ultimate ability. Let's see what we're doing. Let's get the stacks up. Here we go. Bang. Oh yeah, I forgot we need to get weak spot hits, didn't we? This is actually stupid. Oh yeah, weak spot kills. There we go. And we've got another weak spot kill. There we go. This is ridiculous. Holy fuck. Excuse my French. I'm actually in shock. This is stupid damage. Oh my. Okay, I think it's safe to say I know exactly what build I'm going to use in my Psyker gameplay. So, Jesus Christ, that damage is stupid. Wow. Okay. Yeah. What? Yeah. Wow. What? This is gonna get nerfed. It's gonna get nerfed real quick. So you know, if you're a Psyker and you've not tried this yet, give this a shot. I'm gonna try it and just show you just how extremely broken it is. My Jesus. Right. That is the talent tree for the Psyker. As I said, I'm going to have a Psyker gameplay where I demonstrate a build. It might be this one. I might try this one out. I might build something else. We'll see. But I'll drop that the day after this, which is tomorrow. If you would like to stay up to date with my other talent tree dives, which I haven't done yet, which is the Veteran and the Zealot, give me a subscribe and like this video if you like the talent tree dives as well. And don't forget to check out my Ogren talent tree dive, which dropped a few days ago. And with that all out of the way, I will see you on the next video. Goodbye.